What an absolutely fantastic episode of Miss Kobayashi Dragon Maid S. This is my impressions on the 5th episode, so let's jump right into it. Yeah, this episode of Miss Kobayashi Dragon Maid really kind of focused on two different stories for the most part. One being the history of Elma and Toru, and one pretty much being Ilulu finding some sort of job for her to kind of get herself together. But yeah, on the side of Elma, we essentially have Toru and Elma going at it, and Kobayashi's asking them, have you guys always been fighting? Or trying to kill each other, rather. That's when we get a little bit of history into Elma and Kobayashi when they first met. Toru is basically traveling around. She finds a city that is pretty much at the point of having a civil war. And everybody's kind of chanting and raving about the fact that this lady is going to be showing up, this priestess of the sea, that is going to be showing up to essentially solve their problems. She's like, I've heard about this priestess. Apparently everywhere she goes, she offers things up, creates lakes to drown out drought, and kind of creates peace and resolve between countries and stuff. And so everybody's excited, obviously, and she goes to see who this is, and come to find out, it is Elma. And she's like, she visits her at night and says, "You're a dragon. What are you doing getting involved in human matters? It's against the rules." And she's like, pretty much trying to use her abilities that she has in order to create peace and happiness amongst the humans. And during this entire conversation, Toru basically resolves to follow Elma around as she goes to different locations and to, decide upon herself if it's something that she should be doing. And so they travel around the world itself, and at some point, apparently they come to a disagreement. Mankind has basically created altars and palaces which she says to, create peace. And Toru's like, no, this is to worship you. And what about all the people that decide not to worship you? What's going to happen to them? It's going to create conflict anyways. So Toru in this wake is like, no, I don't. This shouldn't be a thing. You should stop this. And they start fighting. And Elma, even at this time, agrees. Yes, I had it in my mind that this is probably not a good thing, but still, this is better than anything else I can think of. And so, of course, they end up fighting and destroying everything around them. And so after this fight, pretty much Elma returns back to the Palace of Harmony, or the base of Harmony, because, of course, again, she's part of Harmony and Toru's a part of Chaos. And after hearing this whole story, Kobayashi's like, pretty much, you guys get along really well, don't you? And they're like, what does that mean? Kind of pretty much pointing out the fact that, now that, nobody's at war and everything, technically, in this world, and there's so many good foods to eat, they technically don't need to fight anymore, so they can now be friends. So it was really cute, and always getting more Elma is always a huge plus for me. But yeah, the other side of the story, we have pretty much Ilulu is lazing around. Toru forces her to find a job. She's thinking about jobs. She's like, I want to work with Kobayashi's, and Toru's like, no, I'll erase you, and I'm going to erase Elma too, because Elma's already working with her. But no, she basically looks around. They check a couple places, and then eventually she's like, I like to play with kids so much. And I'm thinking, she's probably gonna become like maybe a babysitter or something like that would be perfect for her. But no, she ends up finding a candy shop that's just about to close that Kana and all them like to visit on a regular basis. And the old lady there is injured, and she's thinking about closing up the shop. And that's when Ilulu says, can I work here? And because Toru's there and kind of tells her, I think it's a good idea. She'll work well with you. This grandma decides to allow her. It was funny because the lady's like, well, how old are you? The response wasn't that she's like a several 100,000-year-old dragon. No, she's the same age as me. So that works. Apparently from then on, she's claiming that she's 16 years old just to kind of go under the radar, even though she's obviously endowed. But that's when we meet a new character, the boy which is the grandson of the lady that owns the shop. He comes by with her outfit and her uniform. He's like upset because he's like, this outfit looks like a grown man's outfit, which is obvious for a reason. And so yeah, he comes there thinking that some guy trying to pull one over on his grandma ends up being Ilulu. They get into some ecchi moments together because of her chest size. And then, he basically is learning that, this Ilulu is actually a very interesting character, but at the same time, she can be trusted. It looks like she does really well with the children, and they end up kind of becoming friends at the end of the entire debacle. But yeah, so many good moments in there. I also like throughout the entire episode, you have these moments where it keeps cutting back to showing a brief moment or a vision of this journey that Elma and Toru went through, it kind of shows one scene where obviously Elma's in the village and Toru's keeping herself hidden, and she chucks herself some kind of meat bun, and then another moment where they're out in the middle of nowhere camping, and she's, Elma keeps passing out on top of Toru, and she keeps pushing her away, but then eventually kind of decides to allow her. So super cute. Even at the very end, they kind of show this moment where they're talking about how mankind wishes upon stars for things, and Toru's like, well, then they're pretty much relying on somebody they don't even know or something that they don't know in order to grant their wishes, which is foolish. But they'll still think of ideas of things that they'd like to wish for, which is pretty much eating everything for Elma. That was kind of part of the fight. She's like, I try to think of something. This is all I can think of. Plus, they're giving me lots of food. So Elma kind of points out that she believes that her old self was pretty crazy. Like this idea, and you could see it. Her personality when it was showing the history clips was definitely different. She's more stoic, but yet still had those desires for food and stuff. So she's definitely changed quite a bit from then until now. But yeah, so many funny moments with Ilulu going to get a job. Pretty much the outfit that he gets her is like she can't button it up, and he keeps looking at it. No, when he first brings the outfit, she's of course trying to change right in front of him, and he's like, "What are you doing? Stop!" And she's like, "Oh, you're right." It calls him ecchi and then continues like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to say this when something like this happens. Same thing when he falls and falls right on top of her chest. She's like, are you okay? And then he gets up and she's like, oh yeah, that's right, ecchi. Like these little like, I have to do this because it's necessary. Like this is what we're supposed to do, is say that you're perverted afterwards because that's just what you're supposed to do. Really, really fantastic. I'm really loving Ilulu lately, and I really wasn't. I didn't have anything against Ilulu early on. I didn't like her character design because it was like way too much. But as Toru kind of points out with this particular episode, she's finally figured out how to kind of keep her form more fitting to the world itself. So it's a little bit less overbearing. It just reminds me that the little girl showing up and she's like asking about her chest, and the kid's watching at the same time. He's like, oh, this girl's straight to the point. And then she's like, why is your chest so big? She's like, well, that's my flame sacs, and I need it to be large so that I can breathe lots of flames or something like that. And the kid's like, oh, that's what it's all about. That's so great. The innocence of children. They always ask the questions that we can't ask. Yeah, like I said, just overall a really fantastic episode. I loved getting a backstory of Elma and Toru. Granted, I thought it was going to be a lot more to it than that, because they do show a lot of clips of Toru in the previous time, kind of venturing around. I'm sure that we'll probably get more in this season of Toru's history, but it was cool to see that little glimpse of their history together, where they kind of started at, why their conflict was always there, Elma's desire to bring peace upon mankind, and how it kind of technically blew up in her face. That's up for debate in that regard. And like I said, just jumping right into Ilulu, pretty much gaining something that she wants. It was really heartwarming at the very end of the episode, seeing that she's now has something, like this is her job. It's something that she does enjoy. She says that she still wants to do a job that would allow her to play with the children, whereas with this particular job, she's not necessarily supposed to be playing with them, but she's at least in an environment with children that she enjoys to be around and get some enjoyment out of that. I think it's a really cute little job for her to be a part of. Like I said, I was assuming it would be like a babysitter or something like that, or maybe a teacher's assistant at a grade school or something, but still really cute, really enjoyed it, very heartwarming. Even in the case of something like Ilulu's story, where it's more, yes, ecchi and comedy, it still had a little bit of heart in there, and really, really enjoyed it. So the usual great stuff from Kyoto Animation and Miss Kobayashi Dragon Maid S. Definitely enjoyed it. If you did like this video, please leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Consider supporting us on Patreon if you can. And y'all take care.